Infante Fernando of Bourbon and Braganza was a member of the Spanish royal family, and a supporter Carlist. He lived most of his life in exile with his father and brothers. Biography. Fernando was born in El Escorial, Madrid, in 1824, during the reign of his uncle, Fernando VII. It was the third and youngest son of Infante Carlos, Count of Molina, and his first wife, Infanta Maria Francisca of Portugal. His oldest brothers were infants Carlos, Luis and Juan. Her paternal grandparents were Carlos IV of Spain and Maria Luisa of Parma. Her maternal grandparents were King John VI of Portugal and his wife, Infanta Carlota Joaquina of Spain. He was raised in an atmosphere imbued with traditional values of loyalty to the monarchy and the church. Life in court. When Fernando VII was widowed for third time in 1829, it had no legitimate issue that could succeed him after his death. Given his advanced age and failing health, was unlikely marriage contrajese again, which became the infant Carlos, father of Infante Fernando, heir to the throne. Around the infant, a clique of conservative and religious who posed to the liberalism that prevailed in the Madrid court, which would end even more when Fernando VII married his niece, Maria Cristina of the Two Sicilies, the same year, was concentrated, and became father of two daughters, Isabella and Luisa Fernanda. Suddenly, the succession was assured through the two girls. Carlos opposed the succession of his infant niece Queen Isabella II, whose mother, the Queen Regent Maria Cristina, managed to take control on behalf of her daughter. Life in exile. In 1833, Carlos was exiled to Portugal, taking his family with him, including the young Fernando. Later, in June 1834, Fernando moved with his family to England, where they lived at Gloucester Lodge, Old Brompton Road, and later at Alverstoke Old Rectory, Hampshire. It was in England, where a year later Fernando's mother, Infanta Maria Francisca, died. Her sons were in charge of the father and her older sister, Maria Teresa, Princess of Beira, who eventually married Carlos in 1838 during a brief stay of the family in Spain during the First Carlist War. By a decree of the Queen Regent, Carlos and his descendants ceased to legally hold the titles of infants of Spain in 1834. The gap between the two branches of the Bourbon family, Elizabethan and Carlist, would never close. Thereafter, the infant Fernando lived under the shadow of his father, and after his brothers. He never married, and not was regarded as a pawn of marital politics of his family. Faithfully supported the cause of his father, but the failure of the Chartists in the First Carlist War and suffering poverty forced them to go wandering around Europe. The infant Fernando settled in the city of Trieste with his family. His father died in 1855. Death in 1860. During a Carlist rising, he and his brother Infante Carlos Luis were taken prisoners at San Carlos de la Rapita. They were later liberated. In 1861, suddenly and unexpectedly, Fernando, his brother Carlos and his wife Carolina died, probably from typhus. The three are buried in Trieste, in the chapel of St. Charles Borromeo in the cathedral. Ancestors.